All right, our very last example from section 6.1, 6.1 example 5. Now we're going to be writing equations of the perpendicular bisector of a segment. Again, remember perpendicular intersects at 90 degrees. And remember what we know about perpendicular lines. Perpendicular lines have negative reciprocal slopes. Okay, if you remember that from previous section. Perpendicular lines have negative reciprocal slopes, so that's going to come in handy here. And we know a bisector goes through the midpoint. Okay, and if you remember from previous section, to find the midpoint, we average the x's, so add the x's, divide by 2, add the y's, divide by 2. So what we're looking for is we're looking for the equation of a line, okay, that goes through the midpoint at 90 degrees. Okay, that's what we're looking for. Okay, so first let's go ahead and let's graph our point. So let's do, I'm going to have this be my x and y axis right here. So I'll have this be my vertical, this be my horizontal. We have the point -2, -2, up 1, 2, 3. So there's P. And Q is 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. There's Q. So I want to go through, so here's my segment right here. So I want to go through the midpoint of this segment at 90 degrees. Okay. So first I need to find the midpoint. Find the midpoint. Step 1. Okay. Find the midpoint. So the midpoint is going to equal, again, the average of the x's, the average of the y's. So I take my x's, add them. So I'll have -2 plus 4, divide by 2. And then 3 plus 1, divide by 2, average my y's. -2 plus 4, 2 divided by 2, 1. 3 plus 1, 4 divided by 2, 2. So my midpoint is at the point 1, 2. So over 1, up 2. Thank goodness it's a point on my line. I'm going to use a different color. Over 1, up 2, there's my midpoint right there. So there's my midpoint, point 1, 2. So I know I want to go through this point. So I want to go through this point. Okay, so there I've got my midpoint part down. Okay, now we need to do the perpendicular. Okay, so let's grab this color. So now I want to be perpendicular. So I need to get the perpendicular part down. So to get the perpendicular part, I first need to find the slope of the segment. Find the slope of segment PQ. Okay, so there's a lot of different ways of finding slope. One is to think of it as rise over run. Or, lowercase m we always use for slope, subtract the y's over subtract the x's. I'm going to do rise over run. I'm going to go from P to Q. So my rise is down 1, 2. My run is over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So my rise is down 2. My run is over 6. So the slope of P to Q is -1/3, if we simplify that. So the perpendicular to that, so the slope that I want to use is the negative reciprocal. So I need to switch the sign and flip it. So the slope I want to use is +3/1, which is just a +3. So I want it to have this slope. Okay, so we have a point we want it to go through. We have a slope. Okay, so now last step, step 3, write the equation. Write the equation. So I have a point. I have the slope, so I'm going to use point slope form. Y minus y1 equals mx minus x1. So I'll have y minus, my y1 would be my y up here, the point I wanted to go through, -2, equals my slope, which we decided from here is 3, and then x minus my x1, the x I want it to go through here is 1. My equation, so my slope came from here, again the negative reciprocal of the slope of PQ. Okay, and then my point was my midpoint here, and then now we just simplify. Y minus 2 equals 3x, distribute, minus 3. Let's add 2 to both sides, so y is going to equal 3x minus 1. So there's the equation of the line. And so we can actually graph this. And I can see here that I want a slope of 3. So that's 3 over 1. Again, remember, rise of 3, run of 1. So rise from my midpoint, rise of 3, 1, 2, 3, run of 1. Or I could go down 1, 2, 3, back 1. So the equation that I just found is actually the equation of this line right here. And I know it's perpendicular because of that whole negative reciprocal slope thing. Okay, so the equation, and if you notice, this has a y-intercept down here. This y-intercept down here has a y-intercept of -1. So does here. Y-intercept, y equals mx plus b. Slope is the m, the b is the y-intercept. So here my y-intercept is -1, which is what we actually confirmed here with our graph. Makes sense, so there's our equation. So we needed to find the midpoint, determine the slope that we need by finding the slope of the line we're given, and then write the equation. Okay, write the practice down here at the bottom of your notes, and good luck.